Hanken Business Lab at Slush. Sorry we're running a little bit late.
No problem, no problem.
Okay.
I was late myself.
I know that you flew in from France.
Brussels.
Brussels, I'm
Brussels
sorry.
this morning, yes.
And we are, of course, exceptionally naive people, so we don't know what Eureka is. So, what is Eureka?
Okay, Eureka is a fascinating intergovernmental innovation network.
Yes.
So just imagine 40 countries, 40 governments, 40 national innovation agencies joining forces, putting resources in common in order to stimulate innovative projects, embarking startups, spin-offs, SMEs, larger corporation, mid-caps, universities, business schools, research centers.
Wow.
So it's a kind of innovation community that try to steer the emergence of a breakthrough innovation project that in turn transform the nature and the competitiveness of companies, small and medium-sized companies especially.
And it's in the EU?
No, not only. Actually, interestingly, the initiative was taken historically by Germany and France, then grew across the EU countries. Finland is a very important member of this community, and Finland is represented in Eureka through Tekes.
Yes.
Probably you are familiar with the very important Tekes agency in Finland.
Yes.
Vinnova in Sweden. You are familiar with Swedish economy as well as Hanken, I guess. But then it extended to non-EU countries. So in Eureka today, we have Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, Turkey, Israel, Russia. We also have non-EU countries. We have South Korea, Canada, Chile, South Africa, who are very, very active, and which gives to Eureka a kind of open internationalization hub function. So beyond the administrative limits of the EU. Of course, United Kingdom is a very active member of Eureka, and despite of the Brexit, I would say.
And they will continue to be part of it in spite of the Brexit.
Of course.
So that's reassuring. How is it funded?
It's funded through public money. So it's mainly a public sector funded platform. This is the first layer of funding through the various governmental innovation agencies, plus the European Commission, who is topping up the resources by providing an incentive for the transnational innovative partnership between the various players that are applying for grants. It's a grant system. And then immediately after that, leverage effect through entrepreneurs, own investment, and private investors, of course, that are coming on top of it once the project is launched.
So just for us to get a sense of the size and the scope of your activities, what is the annual?
Annually, you must imagine that annually the Eureka community, the Eureka network levers more or less 1 billion euros
1 billion euros
of grants across the 40 countries, which fund more or less 300 new projects per year for 40 countries. And so, of course, it's individually it's not a big amount. It's in the range of between €500,000 and €1 million per beneficiaries. But the global leverage effect, if you add the national, transnational, and European funding poured into the Eureka system, you must imagine something like €1 billion per year.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful.
For 41 countries.
And now you are here at Slush. I know that you're part of the International Advisory Board, right? At Hanken.
Yes, I was invited to exchange views with Rector Karen Spence and the International Advisory Board.
We spoke with her earlier this morning. But you're in here in a dual capacity, partly as Eureka representative and also in this capacity.
For Eureka, it's very important to be here, to be active and to be observing and capturing the dynamics of Slush, the capturing of what happens in the Nordics,
Yes.
and of course to capture the involvement of any kind of players in the Nordic ecosystems, and universities and business schools and Hanken, of course, are very important. You're probably aware that I came across the Hanken Business Lab recently, and probably you don't know that before joining Eureka, I have been leading for 2 decades the European movement of incubators. So that's also where...
I did not know, but did you know about this? Okay.
So, and
I didn't know, it's a European Association of Incubators.
Of incubators, called EBN. And of course I've left officially this community, but you know, today networks like Eureka are also reconnecting with the startup culture players. And Hanken Business Lab is definitely one of the new kid on the block on the startup entrepreneurship culture inside
That's going to be our slogan now. The new kid on the block. Thank you.
Hopefully, the new kid on the block. And that's also why I'm here and why I was invited to exchange views with your rector and the professor around her advisory board. We also wished to continue to create a movement of project generation, not only from the traditional innovation project applicants, but also from a new class of applicants which are coming from a 360 degrees perspective, even very young student innovators. When I see the story of Slush organization, this is also very inspiring for us, institutional innovation network, on how we also have to refresh the genetic origin of the applicants. So when you see how the young generation behind the Slush story have been able to constantly innovate.
Right.
This is also very important for more institutionalized networks like European Commission, Eureka, National Innovation Agency, to open doors, to become open platforms for any new disruptive breakthrough or less disruptive innovation that can change the society, and in which public money is very important to be poured. Because
so you believe strongly in that?
I strongly believe in this public-private approach.
It's in your job title to believe in it, I suppose.
No, it's not because I am paid for that. It's because fundamentally the reconciliation of the public investment for innovation and the private investment for innovation is absolutely key. Not only because we are in Europe, but worldwide, this public-private partnership concept is essential and is the anchor of building more wealthy nations and wealthy citizens.
That is interesting, because I mean that's slightly the opposition of the more supposedly cutthroat model of kind of Sterner's, perhaps even Silicon Valley, the Silicon Valley model. You know, you want to have a return on investment model.
Well, of course, but you also know, if you look at the movements of social innovation, of corporate social responsibility, there is a lot of movement in which VCs and angels and funds are involved, which need to adopt also a different analysis of different models. Indeed, it's true, it's fair to say that the Slush contribution to bringing VC culture into Europe, into the Nordics, into more conventional way of thinking, business development, startup development, innovation development, has been very healthy. Nevertheless, even in Silicon Valley, even in Cambridge, even in Helsinki, even in Shanghai, even in Singapore, without public co-investment, it would not be what it is today.
But with so many countries involved, I'd imagine it'd be hard to reach a consensus on what to give our grants to. What's the process for all the entrepreneurs who want grants from Eureka?
The process is based on trust and delegation. So the countries involved in Eureka delegates to a joint shared team the central evaluation. So it's a little bit like countries are losing a bit of their sovereignty in the decision of what is a good project or not. This is quite disruptive. quite pioneering.
Yeah.
And it's constantly requiring that even very strong, highly professional, leading innovative countries like Finland said, we also need to benchmark with others. We also need to share views. We don't have the full truth, even here at Helsinki, at Tekes. We share this with others, and that's where it becomes really super powerful.
That is so.
Because when
that is knowledge sharing in a nutshell, isn't it?
When the brain power of Tekes meets the brain power of Vinnova, of the French Tekes, of the Spanish Tekes, of the Israeli Tekes, of the Canadian Tekes, it becomes really something incredibly powerful, and it's very aligned with the culture of Slush. Open platforms, bringing ideas from outside Helsinki, from outside Finland into the game in an open way.
That is fantastic. And on that note, I think
that's the business lab culture as well.
That is the business lab culture.
I'm sure.
Hey, thank you so much for
thank you very much. Thank you, Frederick.
So honored.
See you later.
Awesome to meet you.
Alligator. Bye.
See you later, alligator.